Okay, we're gonna call the meeting to order at 5:01. And in the spirit of reconciliation, the town of Diamond Valley acknowledges and pays tribute to the traditional territories of the peoples of Treaty 7, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprised of the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, the Dene of Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda, including Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Goodstoney First Nations, and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Thank you for joining us. We're at our early start time here. We'll be going into closed. Just a friendly reminder to silence your phones or vibrate or whatever for the duration of the meeting. And at this time, I'm going to look to adopt the consent agenda, but I know that Councillor Martin would like to pull something from it, so please.
May I ask that we pull the November 5th meetings, minute meetings, please?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Holiday.
I had a quick question on the Q2 police report.
So you want to pull that too?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the police report, please, thank you. So we'll be moving those to. Write this down now that I have a pen. Are we going 9596? Okay. So 96 was the police and 95 was that the staffing or the minutes? Sorry, thank you. Thank you kindly. Okay. Hazel, would you like to give me a motion to adopt the consent agenda as amended?
Yes, I will give you a motion to adopt the consent agenda with the amendment.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? Perfect. Okay, moving on to the real agenda. If I could get a motion, I believe we don't have any additions to the agenda tonight.
No, your worship, just the question period, but you can address that after.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Bros gives us that as amended. All those in favor? Perfect. And at this time, I'll take a motion to go into closed because I believe that's our. Will you give me that motion?
I'll give you the motion.
Perfect. Okay, Colin gives us a motion to go into closed. All those in favor? At 5:04, that's unanimous, and we'll go into closed.
On the portal.
Good evening. We're going to reconvene our meeting here at 6:10. Apologies for the late start, opening the door. We got really into the weeds on budget discussions. Can't go into too much detail about that. So we're just going to carry on with the open portion of our meeting. We've done our land acknowledgement. You do have a motion?
Yes.
Right away?
Do you want it afterward then or right away?
Why don't you make it during the budget time? Because we talked about it.
Yeah, I can do it during budget time.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we're gonna carry on here with the open portion. We just to bring everybody up to speed, we pulled a few items off of the consent agenda, which we're gonna talk about later on. And yeah, so at this point, we are gonna move straight into question period, I believe. If I'm right on that. Yeah, perfect. Okay. We did receive a question, I believe earlier today, which I'm going to read out loud. And then I'm going to pass it over to CAO Davey to wrap it up or have a discussion about it. So we received a question today from Elsa and Bob, who I believe are with us today. Evening. Thanks for, hello, Ethan. Thanks for taking the time to come in and appreciate the question. So I'll read that out loud. You guys are okay with that?
You bet.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So our son has a disability. As a person with autism, he struggles socially and with communication. However, he is physically and cognitively fully capable of working. As he struggles with expressing himself in words and tends to freeze during interviews, we, his parents, Bob and Elsa, or his employment support worker accompany him during interviews. Besides a variety of private businesses, he also has been interviewed by the town of Okotoks and the town of Diamond Valley. The jobs he was interviewed for would have been a great match for him. However, not once has he received an offer of employment. In the last year, he has applied for a countless number of jobs and he has had countless interviews. His last interview was with the town of Diamond Valley. However, he did not hear back from the town. Needless to say, our son feels completely hopeless and defeated. As parents, it is painful to watch him go through interviews to only be rejected once more. Our questions are as follows. What specific steps has the town taken to ensure that individuals with disabilities are actively recruited, hired, and supported in municipal employment? And how does your current hiring process reflect those commitments? Does the town have a disability hiring target or equality benchmark? Are there accommodations or mentorship programs in place for new hires with disabilities? And how does the town partner with local disability organizations or employment services? So again, thank you for your question. I am going to turn this over because I'm not responsible for hiring anybody other than CAO Davey. So I will hand this one over to you to address.
Yeah, thanks, your worship, and thanks to the residents for raising these important questions. So the town of Diamond Valley is committed to ensuring that all hiring practices are fair, transparent, non-discriminatory, and compliant with the Alberta Human Rights Act and the Alberta Labor Code. So although we are a small town with limited HR resources, our approach is guided by these principles. We do strive to make our hiring process inclusive and competitive, and we encourage all qualified individuals, including those with disabilities, to apply for positions as they become available. When requested, we will provide reasonable accommodations during the application or interview process to ensure that everyone has a fair opportunity to participate. The town is fortunate to receive multiple applications for each advertised role, and every applicant is assessed based on merit and qualifications. So I appreciate the opportunity to clarify this and remain committed to fostering a healthy and safe workplace, committed to providing reasonable services to residents at reasonable rates. Thanks, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. I don't believe we had any other questions submitted today.
That was it, Your Worship.
Okay. Okay, so I will close the question period at 6:14 and we will move to action items, which would be our library budget presentation. John, Tracy, and Jen, would you like to come up?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for bringing us up.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Vernon, do you have Alan?
Yes.
I think you do.
You made me. Had a lot to do.
Good job, Adam. That's tough. Absolutely. I mean, it's difficult. Should I call you Johnny? Good evening, Jen, Tracy, John, good to see you. Thank you for coming tonight. I'm just gonna pass the floor right over to you. I know we have your presentation in the agenda package, but I will let you speak to us.
Well, first off, we would like to congratulate all of you on your recent win and appointment to council, and we look forward to be working with this new council for some time to come. I've always enjoyed the good relationship the library board has had with. So, can you just go to the next slide? Just to give you a little bit of information to kind of support the budget, the library is continuing to get busier all the time. To date, our circulation, our checkouts are up 4% over last year. Hold Satisfied, which is books we bring in from other libraries within Marigold and within Track, wider of library systems in the province, is up 5.5%. Our programs at the moment are kind of on par with last year. So we're looking at around 500 programs we ran this year with, what did I say, over 5,000 people training up. The big jump we saw this year was in other groups using the library. So we had a 10% or 10.5% increase of community groups. Like we have the Leos, we have condo boards having their AGMs. that kind of thing, lots of meetings. But the participants were at 17.5%, so more people are coming to those kinds of things that we have at the library, and it brings a bit of income in for us for some of those groups to say, pay rent. Some of that was because of the teachers' strike. We all of a sudden had a lot of extra things happening during the day. What kids? Can you go to the next one, Rhonda? So some of these we did this year and we're carrying them on for next year, and some of them will be new for next year, but this is just on top of the regular run of programs that we have. So we did an emergency preparedness week in May last year to coincide with the Alberta provincial wide emergency preparedness week, and we did some of them again in the fall. We did a Hollywood Got It Wrong series. We brought in experts in a particular field. Example, we brought in a physics prof from the U of C, and he talked about the movie Oppenheimer, what it got right, what it got wrong, what it almost got right. And we had a series of those. We did a special one for Remembrance Day with a retired military expert, and he took on the movie Hyena Road. We did the first time this year, and we're doing it next year to the National Indigenous Peoples Day. We brought in a speaker, we had Indigenous food, we had games, we had a musical kitchen party, and it was a big success. We also did the Pumpkin Derby, which the fabulous picture there shows. That's going to be a repeat next year. Lego competition, we introduced Reading Dragons this year, where the kids get cards for reading for 30 minutes. This coming Saturday, we have the Astrodome Planetarium coming in, so the main part of the library is going to be filled with a blow-up planetarium. We've got, I think, 6 different sessions happening throughout the day and a couple of adult sessions happening at night. We're doing light up daytime this year on December 6th, so from 1 to 3 at the library, we're going to have face painting, cookie decorating, hay wagon rides, and something else. Things I can't remember what it is.
Storytelling.
Story time, correct. It's the library, of course we use it. We're continuing to run our Out Loud series. We've been doing it since 2012. That's October, Canadian Library Month. We bring in musicians or authors. We often partner with WordFest or other organizations, bring kind of higher end people. And then next year, we're introducing the science fair. We're partnering with the Diamond Valley Youth Initiative to do that. So most of these things, we're partnering with somebody else to do a lot of these things. So you get the next slide. And of course, we won another award this year. We won one last year as well. And this year we won it for our continued Out Loud series that we've been able to sustain that series all the way through, except for the COVID years. We were unable to run it then. So, and there might be one more, is there?
Thanks for that one. Thank you.
Okay.
That's really good.
I'm gonna hand it over to John.
Well,
The
that's
money-
the lady in the middle.
Oh, sorry, say support.
Yeah, good evening. Congratulations to you all. Seems silly sitting here looking that way. I know.
Yeah.
You want to trade for now?
No,
No.
I missed it for a while. Okay, some highlights of the budget. Basically, our budget this year for 2026 has increased by $35,783.37, which is an 8.9% increase. The requisition increase for the towns, for the town and the county was also paying part of that. It's just under $20,000. And that basically covers the payroll change. As you can see there, the difference is 300 bucks between what you're paying us extra and what we're paying the payroll. So all the other increases we've looked after as much as possible by ourselves, so we don't impact the town's financial commitments. Hope it works. So one of the biggest increases is pay employees. We are slightly above minimum wage, but not much. That's the way it goes. We've got this year a change of manager coming up, I believe I can say that, yeah. And there's going to be some costs involved with that, which is one of the reasons why pay has also gone up. Programs and events, as Jem just explained, we do a lot of programs and a lot of events, and quite a few of these things we finance to help people who can't afford to take part in them otherwise. We've already raised in principle, $20,000 from the membership of the library. Getting money out of them is like getting blood out of a stone, but we've slightly worked on it for a couple of years now to improve our relationship. A lot of capital items such as computers, we've got to pay out of our reserves, which we've continued to do. And as you can see with volunteer hours, we've got 1,472 to date, and if you paid all those people at minimum wage, you can imagine what the result would be. So where do we get our money from? We get a grant from the province, we get a grant from Marigold, that's the library system that we're a member of. We get a grant from FCSS, hopefully, we've put in an application. Actually, take note.
Yeah.
We get obviously the requisition from the town is very important, and also from Foothills. We're going to work very hard this year, again next year, to try and get donations and grants from various individuals and organisations. And then there are these nice kind people that come in some days and give Jan a check and say, there you go, do something good with that. And we appreciate that very much. So looking at the budget for next year, this is where I should have brought my glasses. I did. So the first section there is the grants and requisitions. We hope to have a total of $382,000, the majority of which obviously are coming from the town and Foothills. The provincial grant is based on the number of people we've got. As you know, they work with numbers that are out of date. So, yeah. But the revenue that we earn ourselves by the various things that we do to get money in, only is quite small. It's 55,000 for next year, the majority of which is donations. So as you can see, we haven't got much room to maneuver to earn more money. But that's why we've got to work hard on donations and grants. And then expenses. Marigold give us money and then they want us to give them money back. It's an absolutely ridiculous red tape situation. So we're all familiar with that. We buy books, we buy periodicals, we run programs. It's roughly 50,000, and then we've got payroll, which is the big one, 275,000. The wages and salary section, 247,000. We've got a hard number on that. We think we know what we're doing with that part of it, but what's going to happen with EI, CPP, and workers' compensation, those are numbers that we have no clue, because we understand that they're going to go up next year. So if they go up, they go up, and that's when we have reserves to help us. The general and administration, there's a lot of things there, so I'm not going to go down detail one by one. They're basically our best guess based on history and what we think we're doing at the moment in making allowances for tariffs and cost of living increases, etc., etc. So we're looking at a total expense to operate the library for next year for $437,422. Which, if we can stick to that and we can stick to our income, will be. So, if anybody who would like to ask some questions I can't answer, that would be great.
We can find out. Council, questions for Jonathan, Tracy, Jan? Start with you, Councillor Holiday.
It's kind of hard.
So,
Almost for admin too. So we have a tough budget in front of us. if you've read the rest of the package, and some of the cuts that are gonna happen may come on the backs of people in our payroll. And so it's tough, I find, in a year that we're having to hurt, on the town side, we pay over 50% of the library's budget. That to me, it seems like there needs to be better communication on payroll. So if, salary is gonna go up in the library and you hear that the rest of our town employees aren't seeing an increase, or they're getting cuts or whatever, like I know we did a lot of work on our grids, our salary grids. And I know that you guys are separate, but that level of, I don't know if the town can lend support on getting that level of clarity of, or not, or is that overstepping our bounds?
We actually met with the CAO and with the financial manager and discussed our payroll situation last year. Because our rates of pay were very low. We made an adjustment last year to bring people more in line with what is common, taking into account what's being paid to town employees and what's being paid to people on libraries in this area. Taking into account big library, small library, there's a difference. This year, again, we sat down with the CAO and with the financial manager to discuss next year's budget and the impact on salaries. And I believe we did come to an agreement that about a certain percent would be acceptable. So we work very closely with these guys. And we also work closely with your HR person. So we're not making it up as we go along.
That's what I want to hear.
Good question. Great answer. Thanks, John. Council follow-ups, anything?
Love the presentation. Thanks for the detail.
Yeah.
Like to learn.
Yeah, mine's not a question, just thank you for all you do in the community. There's a lot of stuff going on with kids that our kids go to all the time, so we appreciate everything that you guys put on.
And if I may, you did kind of hit that managerial changes are coming in this year.
I am
So,
retiring in July of 26.
Jan, honestly, thank you. So how many
Yes.
years of
It will be
wonderful work you've done?
15 years by the time I'm gone.
That's remarkable.
It's been a fabulous job, and it's just been great seeing the growth and change over that time and all the different things that we have done at the library. So it's wonderful.
Oh, you've left a good legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else, council? Let these guys go back out to the cold. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Probably.
Thanks. Sec. Okay, council. Let's go. 9.2. Request to move funds from the 2025 capital budget back to capital reserves. You've read it. I don't know if CEO Davey wants to speak to it, or if we just want to get a motion on the floor and go from there. Did you want to say anything to it, CEO Davey?
Just real briefly, thanks, your worship. Yeah, so again, last year we looked at refurbishment, the municipal office. A lot more work is required, so at this juncture, we think it's prudent, given our budgetary challenges, to put that money back in the reserves and reallocate a portion of that for the parks trailer, which will come from capital.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much. Council, I'll take a motion to Councillor Bain.
The council approved the transfer of $400,000 from the 2025 capital budget back to capital reserves. Further comment, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bain. And just before I call for the motion, we make a lot of these movements, financially, as CAO Davey mentioned, just for anybody watching online. The expectation was to move out of this building back over to the current former Diamond or Black Diamond chambers, but given costs and other restrictions, we're gonna have to get creative. So that will be a discussion that we'll have in the future about where the chambers will eventually end up. But for the time being, it's good to put money back in reserves. All those in favor? Perfect, okay. 9.3, 2026 capital budget and 2027 to 2031 5-year forecast draft 1. The floor is yours.
Actually, worship, just before turning it over to finance, I'd like to just offer a few broad comments to set the stage in both capital and operating. So capital budget, this year's capital budget is the last one funded almost entirely by grants. So at over 4.7 million, we are fortunate to have received more than 4.5 million in grants to support vital life-saving projects such as the flood berm upgrade. This is also the final capital budget before the Infrastructure Master Plan, or IMP, approved by council last year, is delivered next year. The IMP will guide capital planning for the next decade. It's important to note that while we currently receive about 1.5 million annually in grants, we face an annual capital funding gap of about 2 to 4 million. So the 5-year capital forecast before you totals around 25 million. Even with grants, this forecast would consume most of our reserves and debenture capacity. So this is not a problem to solve tonight, but it is critical that council keep the big picture in mind. Our infrastructure deficit for next year. So this may be the last simple capital budget council will see moving forward. I think it's just important too for the public to understand that as well. For the operating budget, so capital projects have ongoing operational impacts. So for example, the West End Lagoon System, an essential project that will serve residents well into mid-century, accounts for roughly half of the forecasted tax increase, driven by higher operating costs, mainly due to electricity, chemicals, and staffing for 7-day-a-week operations. So the first draft of the operating budget is approximately 20.4 million, representing about a 7% budget increase over 2025. However, this year's budget now includes the mandatory provincial requisition. So education taxes collected on behalf of the province, which was not included in prior years. So for 2026, this is estimated at 3.5 million, though actuals will come early next year and may be higher. So we don't know that yet. This does not affect municipal taxes collected on behalf of the municipality, but it does impact taxpayers. And the town does not have any control over this. That's the same everywhere in the province. Efforts to reduce the tax burden. So the initial draft showed a 21% increase in taxes needed to be collected. Over the past month, the town has taken several proactive steps to reduce this. So a recent internal restructure got nearly 10% of all full-time staff within the town. The result of that, we merged 2 major departments. The departments previously known as Community Services and Finance are now one department known as Corporate Services. So these changes reduced the proposed increase by 9%, bringing it down to 12% in the current draft before council tonight. So despite these efforts, fixed costs continue to rise. To reduce the tax increase further, council may consider service cuts. We've entered a period of austerity and service levels may need to be adjusted downward if we wish to ease the tax burden. Recommendation. So it's my recommendation that council adopt an austerity approach. Make the difficult decisions now, and as the tax base grows with new development, consider the nice to haves later. So in my opinion, the must-haves are, in order of priority, water, sewer, roads, public safety, and then supported by the administrative core. And with that good news, your worship, I'll now turn it over to Lisa to walk us through the details.
Yeah, appreciate that background too. See you, Davey. That's right.
Okay, so first up is the capital 2026 capital budget and the 2027 to 2031 5-year forecast. Again, assuming everyone has read the package, I'm not gonna.
We went over that.
So I think we can just go to the PowerPoint and speak to some of this. So as you all know, some of these slides are from council orientation, but I did want them to be available to the public as well. So just so everybody knows, it is legislated that council approve a 2020 or an annual capital budget and then a 5-year capital plan. The capital budget does need to be passed by January 1 of 2026. There cannot be an interim. So I'm just gonna skip over the legislative requirements. I don't think we need to read those out. And the infrastructure master plan, I think everybody's heard about that. Adam spoke to it. So again, the 5-year capital plan is the best estimate at this time until we get the infrastructure master plan completed. The capital plan for the town can be funded by, sorry, Verna, I'm not helping you.
Carry on.
I'm on, can be funded by tax revenue reserves, offsite levies, although those are restricted very much to what they can be used for. And our external funding sources include the LGFF funding and the CCF funding, which I have shown funding sources in the budget. So if we jump to the 2026 capital budget, here it is. So the first project is the flood mitigation burn upgrade. And the amount that is listed there is the amount of our grant funds. It is entirely grant funded. And the other note for council is that the funds for this grant, any interest that is earned on them either needs to be used for the project or given back to the province. So just so everyone knows, this is our current starting amount. I do have the interest, it will be included in this amount and the grant reporting going forward. Then the Sheep River Water Main Project. I have that, there currently is 432,719,000 that is already being held in MSI funding because it was applied for 2 years ago. And it is still being held there. So we've received the funds, but that's what it needs to be used for. I'm suggesting that the rest of it be funded through LGFF. Craig is still applying for a grant, and if that was to happen, then I would come back to council and we could direct those funds to go to a different capital project. These funds can also be carried over, so if anything that's unused can be used next year. Council had requested that the bulk water station be added to this budget. I have that listed as unfunded. Should council choose to move forward with that, we would need to determine funding sources, likely it would be reserves. The meter replacement program. So we're requesting this be a 3 to 5 year replacement program for capital. I'm requesting we use CCBF funding for it. It does fit their criteria.
Just on that note, the 200,000, with it being 3 to 5 years, we're expected to see the 200,000 annually each of the next 3 to 5 years.
Yes, thank you. Yes, yeah, to replace the meters. And it was in the RFD. There's a lot more information in the RFD about the meter replacement. But Craig has a strategic plan to start with commercial and oldest meters first to see if we can capture some of the water loss.
Thank you.
The Parks trailer, I didn't word that very well, my apologies. It's the Parks building. It would be a mobile building like this one to accommodate the Parks staff. I'm suggesting we use CCBF funding for that as well. You will see you would have seen in the RFD I had for the transfer back to capital reserves. I had originally suggested that funding could be used for parks, but given the criteria for the CCBF funds and LGFF, I felt like it was in best interest to use the funds for that project. They will be approved for that project, whereas some of the other ones are more difficult to get approval on. The Catalyst implementation has been approved by council already. The contract has been signed. That is the municipal software upgrade. We should see that hopefully implemented by June. And I'm requesting that comes from reserves as per the motion previously made by council. A zero turn mower. I will let Craig speak to that, and the trailer for the skid steer.
The zero turn mower is a replacement to replace an existing mower that's 10 years old now. It's getting a lot of use and we just need to update it. The trailer for the skid steer, we have been fortunate enough for the last 11 years to, we had purchased, Turner Valley had purchased a skid steer through John Deere, full price. And we signed an agreement with John Deere for a municipal trade program. That trade program has afforded us a brand new skid steer every single year. For $4,500, we replaced we moved the tracks from the new machine to the old machine and so on and so forth. And we get a brand new machine. That program has unfortunately ended, and moving forward, we now have a skid steer, which we still own, but now we don't get the convenience of replacing it on an annual basis. What that forces us to do, which we've been doing, it hasn't been as big a deal for us because we get a brand new machine every year, so the hours on that machine haven't been that significant a concern for us. But moving forward, tracking that machine from one side of the community to the other is quite expensive, quite wearing on that machine. And now that we don't get to replace it on an annual basis, that impacts our longevity for that piece of equipment. So a trailer allows us to haul it from one side to the other versus roading it. So
I have a question on the trailer. How come we're putting out so much for the trailer? The cost?
The trailer, because we need a trailer that can, we'll need a triaxle trailer that can accommodate 20,000 pounds and implements. So once you get into those heavier load trailers, the cost goes up exponentially. And $40,000 for a trailer versus wearing a machine out is quite a bit cheaper than trying to replace a $150,000 unit. And these will both be going out to tender? Absolutely.
Councillor Martin?
Can we just go back to the water meter replacement program? What is the potential revenue? What is the potential revenue loss for the commercial meters right now?
Well, just for the commercial meters, I can't answer that, sorry. I mean,
We know after the first place.
yes, yeah, but to determine which meters are having loss would be pretty difficult until after they're replaced.
So then you see the difference.
Yeah,
And we'll know how much recovery we're getting, right?
Yeah, sorry, through the chair. The water meters, like Lisa indicated, we'll strategically target those meters that have been in the field for,
Ever.
15, 20 years. And all we can do is wait until those are replaced to see just how much of a loss we were receiving from that particular meter. But typically water meters always err in the favor of the customer. They have a plastic impeller in them, they have a couple of gears. And as the water flows through, there is friction in water and those gears start to wear down, they move slower. To the point, some of those meters, if you got a toilet leaking, they won't even register that leak. So that water loss could be quite significant, but until we start replacing them, we wouldn't know. But our challenge right now is we chase water leaks on a regular basis. It's not something we ignore by any stretch. We have staff out there with sounding equipment, listening to valves, listening to hydrants. And for the most part, we get lucky sometimes. We can't always guarantee that water daylights. So, when it daylights, it's great because then we have a great idea of where the problem is. But unfortunately, being in a river valley, some of that water just goes straight down. And so understanding that we proactively chase water leaks and have some success, and then you fix one and then you watch the water loss start to go up again. And we find we get lucky sometimes, but I know that those meters are probably the greatest loss that we have currently.
I haven't told.
If I may add, you know, it's my hope and grace hope that we will see that recovery pretty quickly. So now that that data is being tracked, we track the water loss based on the Shrunk meter and what we're metering out. I mean, there's a chance, especially with the strategic replacement, that water loss recovery should happen pretty quickly, and then we can provide that data.
Might also note that it has been our experience when we've replaced meters that stop working, because there are meters that fail on a regular basis. We go into that house and we replace it, and all of a sudden that resident thinks that our water meter's broken because they've never used that much water before. So there is a negative side to this for the customer, but at least we'll be able to track those losses.
Thank you.
Jen?
How tamper-proof are our meters?
Great question.
That's a great question. And for the digital meters, pretty difficult. With data logging, we're quite capable of seeing anytime that the water stops flowing, for how long. It's quite easy to identify trends that don't add up, and we can see that. Some of the early meters, on the other hand, not necessarily. Some of those older meters, we don't have the ability to get into the data that deep.
So just as a follow-up, if we're doing a big project replacing it, and you already got your eyes on, like, is there a certain kind that's better? So we're
Absolutely.
getting, okay.
Yeah, we have a handful of different model series of meters out there. We know those models. We know that the oldest models are upwards of 20, 25 years old. Those would be the first targeted. The other side of this, and I'm not insinuating anything by any means, but commercial meters, commercial buildings generally have a bypass. And so a lot of the older commercial meters don't have the capacity to read data. So, you know, we don't actually have an active inspection process on those commercial meters. So we'll also include that into this process, is a regular inspection process where we can go in, we'll tag those bypasses so they're we can readily identify if they've hampered with it, but we'll also increase those inspection periods.
Okay, may you go on? Okay. Please carry on.
Okay, the next item is digital training props. I have very little idea what those are, but they're requests from fire, so I'll let TJ. Do you want to maybe speak to both of your items?
Sure.
Digital training props and the tool. I'm gonna attempt that.
Absolutely. So as part of our continued effort to try to keep training local and keep training practical, we have the new training facility that the town essentially passed over after the recycling center was shut down. But part of that is we obviously can't go and start a fire in that building on a regular basis, or at all, really, we shouldn't.
I'm gonna say, please.
I wonder our insurance costs are.
Yeah. So part of that is technology's come a long way over a number of years to that is props where we can still use our fire trucks, we can still use our hoses with water in them, but rather than, because the other issue too is we also don't want to be flowing water in any building really, because again, if we're going to continue to use it, we want to keep it healthy and a safe place to use. So there's now props that you can use where you can actually literally attach what is the exact same as the nozzle we use right now, but instead of the water coming out of it, lasers come out of it, and then you just have LED panels that receive that laser and can actually respond accordingly to how much water you put onto it. So it creates the ability for us to, not only for the training center, but it also creates, it creates another opportunity for, we've always tried to go in, you know, whether it's even my house or other firefighters' houses, you know, the first thing we all say is, well, all it takes is someone to pump that hose and the water starts coming out. So it often becomes a barrier to us being able to do practical training that is as close to real life as we can get. So with these props, it gives us the opportunity to turn really any place into a live fake fire environment, that kind of thing. With the auto extrication tool, as part of our ongoing maintenance, we have both electronic tools, which we've had some donated over the last couple of years through partnerships from some of the local oil and gas companies. At the Turner Valley Station during some preventative maintenance this past year, our hydraulic tools that station has went through some routine maintenance. The pump and the hoses that push all the hydraulic fluid around for those tools became a flag as requiring replacement. It's nearing the end of its life. We started doing some research, and just the pump alone is $18,000 if we just replace the pump, not the hoses, which is now a several $1,000s more. And on top of that, the tools themselves, which average about $20,000, are about 3/4 of the way through their lifespan. So we saw this as an opportunity that don't replace a pump that is going to not get its full life, because the tools we're all switching to electronic technology. So for the same price of replacing just the pump, we can actually start the transition to our electronic tools or our battery operated tools. So one way or the other, where they're going to change the pump out and get a few more years out of it, and then eventually be starting to phase those other new tools out to electronic, or we take the opportunity now, we get the last couple of years left of life in that pump, and we make that transition to the electronic tools now. And we basically just do that on the notion that we know the pump has failed and the hoses are not passing right now. It's still working. It's one of those things about the risk. We don't know when it's going to stop working, but this would be that first step to going to the new technology of similar to what we did at Black Diamond. Black Diamond's already using battery operated tools. This would be the first step to catching up. And then once that equipment finally fails, and we have no choice, we'd only have one tool to buy then a few years down the road, which is the second tool to that set. So it's kind of the option, one way or the other, we're kind of having to replace something. We feel it's more appropriate to just start that transition to the electronic tool now. Those are our two items. Yeah.
Great. I just have one question just in regards to the digital training props. Don't know anything about it. $36,000 seems like a lot. In support, but is there any opportunity, because we do use that as a training facility, would that, are there other communities that would rent and use this item, or are you seeing other communities buy the same props and use them at their own fire halls as well?
So it's a bit of both. So one of our closest neighbors, obviously Foothills County, they have propane props that they can use. So they have like a fake car, they can plug propane into it. Okotoks has their own building or CCAN that they do some live fire training in. We'd be probably the first that uses this technology per se. So to your point about the cost, if you've ever been to any of these open houses where you get to spray water out of fake fire on the ground, that's a $14,000 prop for that. So it's kind of crazy as soon as you slap fire on it, how expensive it gets. And just that one fire extinguisher and basically a barbecue on the floor, that's a $14,000 prop. So it's kind of crazy. I don't want to commit that we're going to make revenue off partners in this case. I mean, we in hope, we are doing regional training. There's always opportunity for us to cost recover. We're always advocating for different training opportunities in which we can lead. For example, Diamond Valley is within Southern Alberta, the go-to place for auto extrication training. For teaching people stuff like that, we obviously make some profit off of that. Because the training center is still new, we hope to be able to gain some partnership with that where people can see it as a useful tool. We're just not sure. Kind of without this next step, it's still just a building you can walk around in and search around in the dark. This would certainly elevate that and give it the next level of possible use for expanded operations and training.
Yeah, just one follow-up. Given our relationship with Eden Valley, would this be something that would be useful in helping train their firefighters that we are working with right now?
Absolutely, because certainly they have no capacity right now, and they certainly don't have anything to train on. So in our current contract with them already, we're doing their training.
Yeah.
Anything that we can use to help us will always benefit them as well.
Might be some homes you could practice on.
No comment.
Okay,
There's enough
awesome.
work down there.
Thank you very much, TJ. Any other questions, council? Okay, thank you very much. Lisa.
Next item is the host server upgrade. This is the server that holds our data. And it's at the end of its life and needs to be upgraded. Then the cemetery, that's from their requisition for the capital portion. So we don't really, I have nothing to speak to on that, and I mean, that's kind of part of the requisition. Then the last two are for the arena. There's a rear overhead door and LED lighting that needs replaced. And if you have any questions, Craig can answer those.
Seems fairly straightforward. The door needs to be fixed. Why? No. Not working. Not working.
One job and it's not doing
It's not doing its job. Okay, any questions about that list, council?
I just wanna.
Yeah.
Add some context to the bulk water station. That was something that we had been interested in previous council. And it came in at a way higher price. We were thinking, 100, 200,000, came in at 1.4 million. We haven't spent any money on a business case to see if it would actually make money or not, but it would put us in direct competition with the county and Longview who offer it. That might not help our public relations with them. So that one's an easy one to shelf.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Very small. Okay,
So if I may, this proposed capital budget is mostly grant funded. If council were to approve everything on it except the bulk water station, it would be $201,333 coming from reserves. Okay, so we can move to the forecast, the 5-year forecast. So it is also required on the forecast to have the anticipated funding sources that needs to be on the budget that's submitted to the province. So this is just an estimate right now, but we know that the Turner Valley lift station and the wastewater force main need to be repaired. And the rest is just an estimate, and I will leave it at that unless there's any direct questions. And I have kind of put some thoughts on funding down below.
Council Holiday.
Yeah, this is the first time I'd seen that we had a Turner Valley lift station issue. So just, and I always thought lift stations weren't 5 million. I thought they were less than that, but is this something special?
Yes, through the mayor. So the West End lift station, so if you recall back in June, we had a significant rainfall scenario. That scenario was enough in a 2-3 days heavy downpour scenario where we had so much infiltration into that lift station that it overwhelmed that lift station to the point we had to bring in lift trucks. It was easily manageable. We foresaw that. We were prepared for it. But what that indicates is with growth, with the age of that lift station, the town's liability or risk level is if that lift station fails, we are at risk of overrunning into the river, at which point we could see some Alberta environment fines. It's also point out that the facility itself is also getting up there in age, and it's a primary lift station. It's the West End lift station that pumps everything from Turner Valley over to Black Diamond. So it's a significant lift. It's also where we inject our bioxide into the system. And so the number is a high level number. We're not sure what that would be. But for inflationary reasons and without doing a study, we've put a placeholder in there for 5 million.
That spot, that's not in a flood. Is that a flood risk spot where that currently is?
Pretty close.
It's really close.
Oh, is there the option to bring it uphill?
Absolutely. Well,
So where we were parked.
We would have to do some investigation on that, yeah, because the land to the west. And yeah, the only way to move is west and currently that's not our.
So road. That's the road.
Stay
We
on.
were parked right in front of this lift station.
Yeah,
They were like-
west, the road runs east-west,
Oh, okay, okay.
so.
Okay.
We would have to dig into that a little bit.
Something.
Two.
Yeah, thanks, your worship. And again, point of this is to provide context. This is the likely cost we're going to be facing for the next 5 years. We know once the IMP is done, that will actually flesh that out with specific projects with specific costs. But the idea here is so that everyone can wrap their heads around, 4 to 5 million a year from here on out. So I think that actual number overall is accurate. The projects may change, but at least it's an order of magnitude expectation, heading out to 2030 and beyond.
I'm just gonna ask a quick question. Okay, and I think Hazel has one too. How long could we continue on, like, how quickly would we run out of debentures if we had to spend this much money, like every year?
So, thanks, your worship. So I'll turn to Lisa, I'm gonna try to tackle this. I think there's, after West End debenture, we'll have around 17 million. Again, for each million, you're paying close to 5%, which is operating. So we want to mix, and then we want to increase revenue.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna go to Hazel first, and then come back. Go ahead, Hazel.
Is there any offsite levies that can be applied to that? Like especially since you have new development going in up on Bailey?
Honestly, I can't answer that. I mean, because they're so specific, we'd have to look. I don't know if you know off the top of your head, Carrie.
I can add context, but not specifics.
Yes.
So on the Turner Valley side, the offsite levies bylaw identifies very, very specific projects in very specific areas. And there are very few global offsite levies. So something typically of that magnitude that serves all of Turner Valley would be captured under a town-wide offsite levy that I don't believe, like, the town-wide offsite levies on the Turner Valley side are very, very limited.
Thank you.
Yeah, so because it's on there under 2028, the wastewater force main has been repaired, 4 times in the last 4 years, we heard today. So are we kind of holding our breath, thinking that we can put it off for 2+ years?
More or less.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the plan.
It's in the plan.
It's in the plan. They've been in trouble, it's in the plan.
Good t-shirt. It's in the plan. Just your question. Are you thinking like
It was,
those two
it
or
was
something?
rhetorical, because I think we should be moving forward quicker on that one.
Right, so,
But how we get there, good question.
well, it'd be the IMP.
Yeah, your worship.
Yeah.
So the IMP, like, I think what we'll see this time next year is, here's our priority ones. And out of those priority ones, which one do we want to tackle first?
Yeah. Okay. Lisa.
Okay, so, next slide. This is just a quick overview of the reserves. So as of, the beginning of this year, there was just over 6 million in capital reserves. And then just to kind of tie that in with the debenture, as Adam said, our borrowing, and this is a guesstimate based on the West End debenture that will be coming over. I'd say it's around 17,000. So just to put it in perspective, that gives, the capital reserves would be completely wiped with just the force main replacement. And then we have about 17 million in borrowing capacity right now. Yeah. I've also got a slide here just on grants. Truthfully, an effort is being made to use them to their fullest potential. I think that's important. I think it helps maintain them or sustain them in a way. Like, we don't use them, it looks like we don't need them. So There's a little bit of carryover into 2027, but not a lot. So just for everyone's information. This is what it would look like if you use the funding sources recommended in the capital, the 26 capital. The last slide talks about the debt, which we've already spoke about. So that's the end of the capital budget presentation. Is there any other questions or?
Council, you ask your questions as we went through. Any final ones before we move on? Okay, seeing none. I guess we'd be moving to 9.4. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right, your worship. So this juncture, if council wants to see any changes to go ahead to the budget number 2, this would be the time. If we don't hear anything, this capital would come back on the December 17th without the raw water station.
Okay, so I'll just speak briefly to this and in case anyone wants to have any other closing notes. What I'm seeing here is, even though I don't like seeing the word reserve up there, obviously, I think a lot of people would agree with that. From previous budgets that we've seen, this one is really tight. So I just wanted to commend, especially the fire department and Craig as well, Public Works. We've seen much larger items on budgets in the past. So I know, I'm being hard on the 36,000 for this digital thing, but I mean, there were big numbers the last couple of years. And so I really appreciate you guys looking through things. I'm sure there were some hard decisions to make, some wants for sure, but it appears to me that you stuck with your needs at this point. So I really appreciate that. And I'm happy the way that I see it. So I don't know if any other counselor has anything else to say. And Cindy?
I'll just give the motion to remove the bulk water station.
Perfect. Okay. It's yours.
Okay, that's my motion.
Okay. You heard it. All those in favor? Okay. And do we need a motion to accept? Nope. Or Hazel?
Did we replace an overhead door at the arena before?
Great.
So did we replace an overhead hanger at the arena recently, like a different one, or? I was just curious if there was something.
Doors. Last year we replaced a set of tri-doors.
Like the emergency exits or something?
Yeah, that were facing the high school because the frame and the doors were so corroded at the base that the whole thing was swinging.
Okay.
So we replaced those. We do have another set of double doors towards the rear facing the high school that do need to be replaced, but they're still intact, but probably next year.
Okay.
And we replaced the door to the Zamboni, was it?
Correct. I think we made a repair on the Zamboni room door. This door is the large overhead that exits the building to the other arena.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Hazel. Thanks, Craig. Okay, nothing else on 9.3. Let's go to 9.4.
Notes first. Okay, so let's move on to the operating budget and the legislated 3-year forecast. I would like to point out that the 26 operating budget has been given considerable thought and detail put into it. The forecast is an incremental budget, as we know those change yearly, so we have not spent hours going over the forecast. Anything that we could update, we did. The RCMP is updated correctly in the budget. Okay, so just I think we'll go to the PowerPoint because most of this is in the PowerPoint as well. Actually, I think all of it is. Okay. The operating budget. You guys have seen this slide before, but again, I just thought it was good practice because it's published and our last presentation wasn't made public. But it's important that council sets their priorities through the budget and then administration can implement those priorities based on the decisions made by council. I think we can skip over the legislative requirements unless anybody has any specific questions regarding the MGA? No? Okay. So one of the things we've done for the operating budget is merge some budgets together. So instead of you guys seeing 20 sheets, we've merged them into these groups. So corporate services, ledge services, which is your budget, just so everyone's clear on that. The legislative services budget is council's budget. It does not include wages for any staff. It's strictly council's budget. Public safety, which includes fire, municipal enforcement, emergency management, health and safety. Planning and development, parks and recreation, civic operations. So we've combined roads, water, wastewater, waste and storm. And special projects has been left on its own. And then cemetery and library are their own budgets. So there's some significant budget impacts which did influence the original budget that you see here for the 21% increase. The budget overall is a 7% increase, but there's been a decrease to revenue and an increase to expenses, which is why the property tax increase is significant. Utilities have increased by 67.6%. From last year. And debt payment has increased because we're assuming the West End's debt. I will point out that contracted services has increased by 77%. Largely that's due to the wastewater treatment facility and the contract with Aquaterra. Now that we've gone to 7-day-a-week testing and level 3 requirements, that cost would have been there regardless if we had Aquaterra on board or not, but it's just shifted where you'll see some of those costs in the budget. So your contracted services have increased, transfer payments have decreased because the West End transfer payment is no longer there. So it's just changing that, changing the look of the budget, but there is some significant increases to the operating budget to operate the wastewater treatment. We've had an increase to insurance by about 14%. On that note, a recent restructuring of the organization has resulted in lowering the property tax revenue requirement from 21% down to 12%. So the restructuring has taken us from that 21 that's shown in this budget to 12. This draft includes strategic planning for council, economic development, and training for staff and council. This budget also includes drafting the land use bylaw as a special project. We also know that we have significant increase to WCB. And again, council's direction priorities will determine the changes that will be made for draft 2. Next. This is just to outline the changes, the lines in red are outside of council's control. These cannot be negotiated or changed or reduced. Just so everybody has an idea of how much is outside of council's control. You can't control WCB, you can't control electricity, return on investments you can't control. We know that's going down. So just to kind of give an idea on things that council can control and cannot control. And if there's any questions while I'm going.
Can I just ask one?
Yeah, for sure.
Telephone, is that internet as well?
Yes,
That's internet as well?
yes.
Okay, $111,000 for internet and.
So, yes, it's very expensive.
Your worship, but if you don't mind it, Lisa, can you explain though how like lift stations and stuff like that?
Oh,
also
that includes everything. So that includes the auto dialers, any the alarm systems for the lift stations.
Oh, I see, okay.
It's
okay.
not just like.
It's just not a modem in the
It's not
office.
just this.
Okay.
Their cell phones.
It's not just cell phones and admin's phones. There's a lot more
Okay.
to that.
Okay. Okay.
Even
Appreciate
as
that.
an example for just because I'm familiar with West End, the internet requirements out there are fairly significant. So those costs, yes. Thank you for pointing that out, actually.
And I guess one more follow-up, because like when you look at the utilities increase.
Yeah.
That's electricity primarily?
It is, and operating the lagoon upgrade, that had a significant impact to the electrical.
Almost $500,000.
Yes.
Wow.
May I ask a question?
Please do.
Are your contracts for electricity and gas, when do they come due?
Gas, we just renewed, and I think electrical is locked in for a couple more years. I'm trying to remember. I'd have to look. I'd have to get back to you on that, because off the top of my head, I'm not sure. But we have done a good job of trying to negotiate those costs, yes.
Yeah, finish that, your worship. So again, now there's no consumer carbon tax on the natural gas side.
Right.
You might see a marginal savings, but the electricity is just skyrocketed. So whenever we go out to tender for utilities, it's a public bid. So we'll actually have 4 to 5 companies bidding for this 3-year contract. So we're very competitive, very competitive.
Now, while you state that this is out of our control, is there anything within, like anything creative that we could do to what can we shut off?
Oh.
What can we turn off?
Have a blackout.
Well,
I'll just-
I mean,
Please.
yeah,
I'll tackle this, your worship. So I don't have an answer yet. We're looking through it, but one of the ideas being pitched is, could we just shut off streetlights perhaps from midnight to 4 a.m.? This is fairly popular stateside. A lot of cities implemented that after the 2008 crash. So it's something we've actually reached out to our provider to ask, but I don't have an answer. When you see that kind of expense, I mean, that one single line item is one of the key cost drivers that has increased this year's budget. So if we have that answer back for draft 2, we'll certainly bring that. But that's one of the things we're looking at is, could we just simply shut off all of the town-owned lights for a portion of every night?
Yeah.
To reduce usage.
yeah.
So more to come on that.
Well, you could be looking at, say, $100,000 in savings a year, potentially, right? And the reason I asked that, CEO Davey, is, our residents always ask us to be creative, right? Some residents are gonna think it's reckless in the sense that it's a security concern, right? You're shutting the lights off, you have people prowling around in their vehicles late at night. But these are the types of conversations I'd like to be able to bring to the public through the content that I post and say, hey, is this something that you'd be willing to entertain? Because here's situation A, cost increase 68% in a year. What do you guys have the appetite for? So I appreciate you looking into it. Because ultimately, if the feedback is, no, absolutely not, okay, well, then prepare for an increase, right? And then, it's, we can defend, right? That's the defensible piece. So thank you.
Oh,
Yours again.
I'd also like to point out, so I have IT in red, which, can be questioned, but again, something we're seeing in municipalities is some cyber attacks and threats. And to not do our best to safeguard that puts us at risk for an insurance increase. We have to do our due diligence. So we have seen some increases there, but that, in terms of risk management, I wouldn't recommend we cut that. And the other big thing to hit the budget this year is the provincial requisitions. We're required to include those in our operating budget. Excuse me, they were missed last year, but they are in now, so you can see that the budget looks a lot different compared to last year's budget. In a lot of these numbers, we've included them from last year just to show that the budget didn't increase, by $4 million for no reason. The requisitions are now included in it. Next slide, please, Marilyn. And we've already discussed this. These are costs that are outside of council's control. And again, I'll just touch on the operating costs of the new wastewater treatment facility and electricity. We have our best estimate from the engineers and from our broker for power, but it really is going to depend on the operations and how much energy that's actually going to use. So we will see some fluctuation with that. Next slide, please. Brenda. Here's our operating revenues and the percentage. Their percentage of the total municipal budget. You can see property taxes make up the largest percentage of municipal revenue, followed by goods and services. And then we have franchise fees, other revenue, operating grants, and further down the list, they get pretty insignificant. But in a good news story, the reserve draws in this budget are at 0%. So no money is being taken from reserves to offset revenues.
We could look at increasing franchise fees.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That would be something that we wouldn't get in place for January of 2026. But yep, for 27, absolutely. It was explained to us that you can increase them mid-year. They don't tell you that, but you can. So I would base this budget based on the franchise fees that are in here, but I do suggest council look at increasing franchise fees.
If you were to go to the max, how would that increase?
Great question. We currently are at 15% for one and 10 for the other, and you can increase them to, when we have at 15 to 35%, the one we currently have at 10 to 20%. So it would be substantial, yeah.
Worship, we could bring that scenario back, I would think, for budget too.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, and again, just a reminder for council and everybody listening, those are based on a percentage of people's bills. So again, it's always an estimate. You have a warm year, your franchise fees are going to be down. And I believe our franchise fees this year are less than what they had been expected to be. Next slide, please. Here's the operating expenses as a percentage of the municipal budget. And on both of these, I've compared 25 to 26. And although we're looking at some significant increases to some of these costs and taxes, you can see that there's not a huge difference in a lot of them. And the ones that you can see, so the contracted service and the transfer payments, again, that's the shifting from West End to the town. Any questions on that?
Well, I think maybe just a comment too is something that isn't captured in this is the savings that we potentially gain from WCB, the more that we contract these services, like.
Oh, yes.
Right?
That's
So those are
right.
kind of like the hidden savings. So like,
That's
even
correct.
though people watching may see that, oh my goodness, look at the jump, it's gone up so much. We've had an absolute tornado of a situation in the last couple of years with WCB. And so council, and with help from administration, has looked and said, look, how can we get away from these WCB increases? And contracting services was one of the best ways to do it. So for newer council members, although it looks like a big increase, this was done intentionally to help our bottom line.
Mhm. Yeah, we have seen an incredible increase to WCB in the last couple of years, and we do not have the exact number yet. It should be released by the end of November, but just given what we know and what's happened, we expect there to be a significant increase again, and it has been reflected in the budget. So once we get those actuals, like for drop 2, they should be in place for drop 2. Next slide, please. And again, this is a slide you've all seen. The variable expenses that council can influence are non-core service levels and programming. Budget challenges. So utility rates, previous council has directed that we work towards full cost recovery of utility rates. The decision that was made this year was to use the proposed rates from 2024 to keep using those same rates and to have the next council decide if they want to keep on that path to have full cost recovery by 2028 or delay that a bit. And also with the wastewater treatment plant and the changes with Aquaterra, we'll have a better understanding of what these numbers look like at the end of 26 or towards the end. And then council will be able to determine if they want to keep moving towards full cost recovery, which will remove this burden from the taxes and place it on a user payment. So we are not meeting full cost recovery, but this budget does include money, 462,000 estimated going to water and wastewater reserves. Other challenges are significant infrastructure deficits, inflation, increased costs, WCB and electricity, and of course, downloading of costs from provincial and federal governments.
Sorry, Worship, if I may, just an example of that, right? Like the downloading a cost that to see the direct impact. It's not just the education requisition, which impacts people's bottom lines that paying taxes, but even again, the sewage treatment plant going from level 1 to 2 and then to a 3. That's kind of a hidden downloading cost, but it's very direct. So another way to think about it.
Another cost, so I actually thought you were gonna mention, and Verna, please forgive me if I butcher the, but it's legislated that as we move from FOIP to the new,
Addie Pop.
right, Addie, we have to get training on that. It is not an option. So that is a cost, I believe we think it's gonna be about $15,000. That's not optional. We have to move towards that. So that legislation.
Absorb it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the direct cost for the training, like the
Yeah.
program itself, but then your admin time.
Oh,
It's
yes, that's
cost.
just the cost
Right.
to get the training.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then the cost of you guys losing out on time in the office.
Yeah.
On top of that, right?
Yeah.
And your worship, keep in mind too, is for every policy that we bring back, that's gonna reflect those changes too.
Mhm.
Yeah. Next slide, please. Okay, waste rates and the impact to budget. We contract the town of Okotoks to provide waste services, and the waste rates are currently, at best estimate, being billed at full cost recovery. That being said, 2025 is the first year that we moved to bi-weekly garbage pickup. So.
That should say currently the 2025 waste budget.
No, sorry,
Oh, that's
twenty twenty-six, yeah, 25 is showing good news, so far,
Okay.
right? We're pretty close to full cost recovery. The 2026 is showing a deficit, which can be adjusted for draft 2, but that would require an increase to waste rates in March. I'm proposing March of 2026, really, I can bring them back whenever council directs, to continue to operate at full cost recovery. Given some of the increases that residents will be seeing on their bills, we determined that water and wastewater consumption rates will go up as of January 1st. That will be reflected on the March bill. Another option council has is to let the variance be absorbed in the tax. And once we have more, right now, I have 5 months of data on tonnage for waste. Once we have more data to bring the waste rates back with water and wastewater for 27, so that would all be incorporated as January 1, 2027. And we shouldn't be massively off of full cost. Obviously, our costs have gone up, but the tonnage is variable. So that's the data that needs to be looked at. So that's an option council has to reduce the tax number, but then it would put it onto the utility bill.
Cindy, do you have a question?
Yeah, how many users, like households or pickup, so we're about a $60,000 deficit, or how much deficit? And how many houses, like, I'm just wondering, per household?
Oh, we have about 2,200, I'm in the ballpark that.
200.
And
6 times a year, so it's like $450 a month to get it back up.
yes, but obviously I would come back with exact numbers
Exactly.
when I actually
That's like-
look at all the data. Yes, yeah, so I just
If
left.
we went halfway
Yeah.
this year, so we could do half next year rather than have
Yeah,
to do a big
yes, that is absolutely up to council. If council would like waste rates brought back, if if you can make a motion for that, then I will bring back because the rates and fees bylaw would have to come back, and then we would move that out of this budget. So truthfully, the waste rates right now are not super accurate in this budget, just because they're based on last year's data. So really, it's a matter of where you want to see that cost shifted to the tax bills or to the utility bills. Next slide, please, Vera. Here's the, just to remind everybody about the property taxes. The tax rate is equal to the revenue needed divided by assessment values. So that tax rate fluctuates based on those two variables, the budget number and assessment values. I also just want to remind everybody, the change in property tax does not equal the percentage change to the operating budget, as other revenues can fluctuate. So they're not the same number. Next slide, please. So the other important piece to point out is the tax change being proposed. So say it's 12%, that is not going to equal the percentage change in property taxes that every homeowner is going to experience. Something that's somewhat unique to us versus some of our closest neighbors, because we don't have a lot of non-residential assessment. Administration brings that back to council every year. Because if we get some more non-residential assessment, likely council would want to change that split between residential and non-residential. So at this point in time, we don't have a 4-year plan saying, okay, we're going to lock the split in at this, because it's expected that we will get more non-residential assessment value. So that's why right now I can't tell you, every residential house is going to see this percentage. Also, assessments fluctuate. So somebody who's done some work on their house, just important for everyone to remember that the percentage that council approves from the budget is not going to be, everyone's impacted differently based on assessments, their assessment value, and the split that council sets. Next slide, Lorna. Okay, so you guys have seen this before too, in Carrie's presentation, but just again, I like the slide and wanted it to be available to the public, but it's just important to remember that middle part doesn't exist, where we can have, low density, low taxes, and increase to service. And I'll also just point out in 2025, 92% of the town's total assessment came from residential properties.
Adam?
So just for context for those watching at home, right? City of Calgary is close to 50-50. So that's something that is what's very unique about Diamond Valley. 92% of our assessments, people's homes.
And it's not a good uniqueness.
Well, people keep saying, I don't want to grow. This is what we get stuck with.
Yeah.
Cindy?
Since we have Carrie here, how many new houses have we added this year or expected to add? Compared to last, what did we have last year?
Oh, it was in the Q3, and then we'll update those numbers at Q4 at the end of the year. I don't recall what the number was off the top of my head.
14 million it's around 14 million new build that has been added, but that doesn't equate to definite assessment value.
Yeah, so that would be all building, I think was that number in the report. We did have the number of new homes. I know that we've had a few applications in the new subdivided areas, so that's exciting and promising. And we've had a lot of pre-application meetings on a lot of multi-sites. But I think there's just a lot of competition in the market, and the performance that they're doing aren't coming out as positive as they'd hoped for because of services and material costs being higher than probably what they've seen in previous projects. And I mean, we see that too when we're going to market for our materials and our labor as well. It's coming in pretty high.
to know in the ballpark, like 20 homes a year, 30, 40, like just for reference for new council.
So if all of our projects that are in my 28 list kind of went according to a usual schedule, meaning that staff is able to get to them in a timely manner and the developer is responsive in a timely manner. I think it was something like we'd be expecting between 40 and 200 a year for the next 4 to 5 years, and then probably big boom after that, because then we'll get big phases of some of the proposed developments coming on.
But in recent history, we've never been much more than 40 homes a year.
Probably. That's why Woodmasters
Yeah.
Yeah.
couldn't build that many that
Yeah,
fast.
right.
Thanks, Your Worship. We can just pull over that Q3 update, which was part of the last council meeting, and it has some good statistics in here. Able to just make it bigger.
Yes.
Yeah, so that chart on the, so there's one subdivision in Q3. 2 were endorsed, creating 24 new lots. Again, we've had development permit applications for single detached homes on a few of those. And then if you can scroll down, thank you. So the development permits are about 8 just in Q3, and that can range, so. Yeah. There's not a ton of single development this year or multi, just because there aren't lots available, which is why we're trying to get the subdivisions done. But again, it's a combination of staff capacity and developers also fulfilling their obligations on their end so that we can actually get to endorsement and receive the development permits for the structures.
Can you show how many doors? And maybe in this report, Carrie,
We can do some work on that for Q4, yeah.
but I thought it was on this
Uh,
presentation of where you showed how many doors.
yeah, there.
Yeah, there we go.
So these are some of the major projects that are currently being worked on. So there's a subdivision on 16th Ave, so that has 23, it's been endorsed. 211 Dunham Lane, so the old tennis courts. Construction's underway. We're looking at endorsement hopefully by the end of the year. Again, kind of partially in the developers, mostly in the developers' hands on that one. 24 in the northwest corner, that's the Everwood / Diamond Ridge. Sunset Boulevard. There's gonna be an extra one there. 305 Dunham Lane. So that's the Lions Club. Lands 36 there. So as you go down, like, there's a lot that we're waiting and anticipating coming on. It's the getting through the processes. And when somebody applies for subdivision, the expectation is that by the time you get through the engineering and the approvals and something's actually going into the ground, it could reasonably be a year. And then once things get into the ground, then we actually have to get servicing and the lots created at land titles through the endorsement process. And then we can start seeing building. So from the time somebody comes into our office, kicking tires, asking about buying a property, to the time that a building is actually occupied can take 3 years in kind of a good scenario, to like 5 in kind of a normal to 7 in kind of like a something went sideways and we figured it out.
Can I just ask one question, Carrie, while we have you here and while it's up there? 129 Willow Ridge Boulevard, 30 doors. Where is that? Is that in Willow Ridge? Because I looked it up and that's like the Willow Ridge neighborhood. That's already there.
that the town or the R3 or whatever that's supposed to move into the grocery store or?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
No, because it says construction completion.
Sorry, so that. Not coming to me right now.
That's okay. I just wanted to ask because I'm not familiar
So-
with where that would have been
So
done.
yeah, based on my notes, there, it might be one of the ones that's just in maintenance period. So again, part of that subdivision process is you come to me, I want to do subdivision. Cool, you fill out all your application forms. Then there's a whole bunch of reports you have to do. And then our engineer reviews those. If everything's looking good, then you get hopefully an approval. That's the
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
Then you work through the conditions of your approval to the point where you can get an endorsement, which is then when we registered in land titles. And I'm sorry that we're like going off on a planning side quest right now. And then once it's endorsed in these land titles, then they can start doing the houses. But that whole time, there's still the subdivision servicing element to it. So they still have to put the pipes in, they still have to get the streetlights in, they still have to do all of this stuff. And then once that's all in, then it has to do a maintenance period. So the developer is still mowing the lawns and clearing roads because that's their responsibility. It's their infrastructure on their property still until it gets the final acceptance certificate and gets turned over to the town. And most of those maintenance periods are 2 years. So even once the road is built and you're like, what's that? There's a road built. That's not the town's road for minimum of 2 years.
Okay.
Is that
Thank
a
you.
condo building?
That's what I'm looking at right now. Okay, thank you, Carrie. Council, any other questions? We'll go back to Lisa.
No.
No questions?
I'll see what's.
Okay, thanks, Carrie. Okay, Lisa.
Just to point out too, just remember when, as we see buildings come up, assessments are always behind. So we won't see that hit the tax revenue potentially for another year. It depends on timing and when things are completed.
Just to clarify, because I think that's important, because
Yeah.
when you build a house, because everyone, they're like, oh, the taxes are only this when they look at it because that was pre-construction. And they get a surprise, right, get mad at us. But also, it's when it gets occupied and then you have to hit like July or December 31st for
correct.
the assessor after they've gotten occupancy, right? So even though something's like half built. you
Nope,
don't
it's
get
based
extra.
on timing. It's not based on occupancy. So somebody could build a house and not move into it for 3 months, but if it's built after that deadline, it's going to be assessed as per the assessor's standards. So it's all about timing, but you're correct, we can have new builds go up, but they're being assessed just on the lot because of the timing. And then their taxes are gonna significantly increase the following year because now their house is being included in that assessment value. So it's important to look at that assessment value, especially for new homes. Thank you, Brenna. Just everybody here knows this, but just a reminder that council can only control the municipal portion of property taxes. The province sends out the education requisition and they determine what that rate is. And I will point out it is in the budget. I've calculated that based on the equalized assessment they have sent out for 2026 using last year's tax rates. Because we've seen about a 10% increase to equalized assessment. That's approximately, I think it's 9% in the budget, but that is just an estimate. So until they release their tax rate, I won't have actuals for that.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yep.
Just maybe for administration, with the big jump that we experienced this past year, from your perspective, or maybe have you heard anything? Were they anticipating the raise in teacher salaries? And I know that there's already gonna be another jump next year. Now, had they not considered the raise in teacher salaries, we would be looking at likely an even bigger jump next year. Is that safe to assume? Have you heard anything?
I think that's safe to assume, your worship.
Okay.
I know AB Munis did say, and like Lisa just mentioned, they're looking for a 10%.
Yeah.
At least, like you can see last year, that impact to us was 24%. Hopefully it's less this year, but yeah, it's all tied together.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you.
This is just another slide about property taxes. Because that's what impacts the residents. And just a reminder, assessment is linked to property taxes, as property taxes are based on the principle that the value of a property owned is an indicator of the owner's ability to pay, as per the government of Alberta.
I think we should make a resolution on that one, but just saying.
Yeah.
And again, I just feel like, you know, we've already talked about all of these things that increase property taxes. And what is outside of council's control, so I don't think we need to go over that again. And next slide is the operating reserves. So as of January 1st, operating reserves were just over $3 million. Actuals will be calculated at year end. And budget 2026 is the following reserve transfers. So no transfers in from reserves, that's a good thing. Transfer to water and wastewater reserves to put for infrastructure, a transfer to planning reserves for future documents, stormwater reserves, that's the $10 fee on every utility bill, goes right into storm reserves. Waste reserves is the $2 fee on everyone's utility bill. Legislative services reserves for council at $3,000, and that is for elections, I believe. Yeah, instead of having that hit all in 1 year, just to build that reserve up for elections. And there's always the potential for elections, by elections. And then the general reserve of $30,000 to replace the 2024 curling club payment. That concludes the PowerPoint presentation. The budgets follow that we can go through and quickly discuss, unless there's any questions on the PowerPoint. So truthfully, with the budgets, I'm not prepared to line. I have information here, but I don't know what, do you guys want to line by line what you see up here? Can we just thank you.
I'd rather council ask questions. No, and that's what I prefer, yeah.
So we have it shown this way, and then we also have it the other way that wasn't in the package, that's usually in the package where it does the curling rink and bylaw,
Yes.
Yeah, and just compare expenses, revenues all on one page, you know, the sheet. It looks similar to this, but instead of by expense category, it's by business unit.
Yes, so
Are you gonna do that in the next round? Or
I was not planning to, so
Okay.
the next sheets are by business unit.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so the next, if you scroll down, Verna, so then it's broken out by business unit.
Yeah, but
And
you're
it's-
just not doing it in the same format as, it's just good for comparison, but if it's a lot of work.
No, I pulled this stuff from Catalyst because I didn't think you guys wanted to do it. I don't like the way it presents. I'm like, oh, I don't think they want to see this. So, I mean, I'm sure we can run it.
Yeah, there's the one pager that had it, the revenue expenses by business unit.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
And it showed down to the flare and the campground, everything was a little more.
Yeah.
Do you?
I do know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, now, I
Just
mean,
a one pager.
yeah, one thing we've done for these reports, like I said, is merge some groups together, but I do know what you're talking about, I can. put that
It's just
further
what I'm
too.
familiar with, so I mean, I can get used to this, but I like the 2 pages, those 2 pages were enough for me, and yes, if we were gonna make cuts in a specific, I might want this level of detail. If we were looking to cut.
If I mean,
But
if I could share my screen, I could easily, but I can't, so. Cause that report is coming right out of our software. Yeah, I think, I know the one you're talking about, it's 2 pages, right, revenues, expenses.
But I had them side by side
Oh, yeah,
in our.
Yeah. it's a Catalyst report, but sure, we can, definitely, I can bring that back. And if you're looking, if there's any specific questions on detail, I can pull that information for you guys, if you have any questions in particular about line items. The one thing I will point out, sorry, Brenda, can you go back to the first slide? We have shown this with budget 2025, and the revised 2025 just includes those transfers from unrestricted surplus I requested for the missed items. Unfortunately, when I PDF'd this, I missed the bottom number. And so the total reserve transfer, surplus transfer last year was just under 500,000, 492,000. So it's just a comparative to see what it would look like with those transfers in at the very beginning of budget. Any questions on this or?
Nope, don't see any.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone have any questions on the specific budgets by business unit? Everyone's looked through them or any, like to your point?
I just know that every year I will get one question from a resident, how much does the pool lose us every year? And that sheet showed it to me right there. I can see.
I know exactly what those. I mean,
That's the
so
question I get every
I'm
year. by
trying to
somebody.
answer some of those questions, like if you guys,
Yeah, it's just nice to have it in print that I can just go, oh yeah,
Bet.
here, pull it up on
Yeah.
the operating budget page. Like when we post on the website, I always pull it up and say, oh yeah, we lost 150,000 or whatever.
Yep, sure. Can even email that out to you. I know exactly what you're talking about. I was like, I like the presentation of this better to look at it. Because part of what we're trying to get to is looking at things holistically. So when we look at each department breaking down IT or breaking down building maintenance, we're trying to look at it holistically as one budget. So with IT, you know, instead of going, okay, well, this department gets 2 new computers, this department gets 3 new computers, but this department actually needs 10 new computers. Like we're trying to look at everything holistically. But I do understand with those sorts of services, there is a loss. I mean, recreation typically runs at a loss. So yeah, I can absolutely provide that for you.
Hazel.
Thank you. Just please remind me, so we have a contract with Longview for the municipal enforcement. We do not collect any of their ticket revenue, do we?
No,
No, we don't.
No. Yeah.
but highway we do, right?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So the contract with Longview is for cover the cost of 1 FTE.
Yep.
We share that FTE at a 50-50, so we get them for 20 hours and they get them for 20 hours. So we obviously get the advantage of that 20 hours here with us. They're making money for the town through proactive enforcement and education. The other part to that though is that while they're transiting between Longview and the town, that jurisdiction is revenue that would come back down to the town.
Okay.
The tickets that they write within the village of Longview is revenue that they get to offset their costs for the contract and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Council, are you satisfied? Okay. Any final thoughts? You good, Lisa?
Yeah, I'm good. If nobody has any
Yeah.
questions, like I said, I don't think I need to read this all out
No,
in my
no.
mind. So I can absolutely provide that report. Like I said, we can email it to you and draft 2 will have it with the updated version for sure.
Yeah, this would be the appropriate
That's
time,
what
your
I-
worship. So, yeah, so the idea now would be motions.
Okay.
And then I understand council wants to go back and closed, and if any motions come out of that, we would then apply those motions to draft number 2, which will come back on December 7th.
I've got one and you want, okay, you can wordsmith this for me, Vernon, if that's okay, but I would like to direct administration to move the line item for training, council training, which I believe we've set aside 40,000.
Just 1 second. Please. Yeah.
33,704. So some of that, the number you're referring to included, just like probably we could turn some admin training to, which, so council's current training is 33,700.
Okay, well, if council's okay with it, I would move that into a reserve for the pool. Instead of going to Edmonton next year for AV meetings. If council's in agreement with that, that would be my
If you
motion.
do a friendly amendment,
Okay.
25,000 of that, they'll leave a little bit for training.
Sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah, 25,000. Yeah, no problem.
That leaves 8 and get it changed, just in case we need some training.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Especially
Yes.
for new council.
And so your worship, I just want to clarify too, so should council approve that, $25,000 would create a new reserve for the swimming pool.
Or 25 grand.
It's a good starting point.
That is, yeah, that's somewhere.
I think in that motion, you should make it clear that, that any training fund should be prioritized to new counselors
Yeah,
versus old. So just. I'd be happier with that. 'Cause, yeah, I've done enough EOEP courses and I've been to AV meetings enough, so.
In the event that, say I were to go meet with RJ, would that
that's just going to
that would be a per diem, or, but what, let's, okay,
Yeah.
let's say I went up and met with, the Minister of Tourism, for instance, in Edmonton to secure potential grant funding or something. Does that come out of the training?
Well, it says travel too, so,
That, yeah, to be,
so that's for travel, those are two separate lines.
yeah, they're separate line items, your worship, like that 33 is essentially AV meetings.
Okay.
Right, so if you have a one-off, going to meet the Minister of X to discuss why for some initiative, that would be essentially remuneration.
Okay, just wanted to clarify before we move the money. They won't come see us. But I've sent a lot of emails in the last couple of days and I just want to try and see what's available, especially we're talking with Craig about the grant that he's been trying to secure for $800,000. We've missed the mark twice.
Plus or minus, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm trying to meet with RJ about that in December, to see if he can nudge us in a different direction. He'll come see us, which is great. But, you know, if there's tourism dollars around and, you know, one or two of us goes up to Edmonton to try to lobby the minister, Minister Scow, then I would want to do that too. But $25,000 is fine, and if you want to make another friendly amendment to new council for the difference.
And that, yeah, just add that the remaining, that any training funds be prioritized to
new council.
new counselors.
Okay.
Does that capture your worship in council?
Perfect. I'll read it up for you. The council direct administration to move $25,000 from council's workshop, conferences and training budget to a new pool reserve, and remaining training funds are to be prioritized to newly elected council members. Everyone's good with that?
Yeah.
All those in favor
Good move.
and those opposed? Okay. Cindy.
Yeah, I wanted to make the motion to spread the cost of the new land use bylaw over 2 years instead of one.
And to worship to December 3rd, so we can make that change. And on December 3rd, a staff report's coming back that outlines all the cost options too. So depending on where council wants to go with that, that may further adjust that. But right now it's budgeted at 250. So it'll take likely 2 years. So that would deploy 50% 1 year, 50% the other year. So that would actually reduce the 2026 operating budget by 125,000.
Motion is almost 100%.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay. That's it for you. Sure. Bring them on.
Yeah, over the 2026 and 2027. I'll read.
Thank you.
That indicate operating budget or so?
27 operating budgets.
Ask a question.
Mhm.
Would even though we've put this over 2 years from a planning perspective, could we anticipate to see the completion of this in Q1, Q2 of 2027?
Give it an 18-month.
Yeah, your worship,
Just being creative.
I think this is a good target here for a budget.
Okay.
And then at the next council meeting, I'll actually have the opportunity for a substantive
Okay.
discussion.
Perfect. Okay, appreciate it. I know I'm just being hopeful. I just, you know. Yeah, Lisa?
I'd also just like to point out, what I'm seeing, looking at previous budgets, most of these projects are taking 2 years.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually coming with some motions with draft 2 to ask for the surplus to be carried over into the next year so that it doesn't just get put to unrestricted surplus. So the entire amount is being budgeted for in 1 year, but they're taking, they need to be carried over. So truthfully, this probably isn't a bad idea, because otherwise I'd end up in the same boat with the INT, right? So I'm gonna come in and ask for motions to carry those over so that that funding is still budgeted and allocated.
You have another motion, Cindy?
Yeah, I did. I just want, information on the garbage rates. If we went halfway to full cost recovery with the deficit,
Yeah.
what those numbers would look like, just the information brought back to the next meeting. I don't want a decision tonight. I just want to see the numbers. Sure, next draft 2.
Yeah, with the data I have, I will make those assumptions and absolutely can bring garbage and organics rates
Yeah,
back. Yeah, for sure.
So are we gonna write that one down? I know we have to vote on
We need
this.
to vote on the other one before you put another one on the
Okay.
table.
All right. Cindy,
We have to vote on your first motion.
we have to vote on your first one before we can do the
Okay,
second
yeah.
one.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
You're gonna make
So
it
it's
a
right
few
there for
dollars.
you. You wanna read it out?
Yeah, the council directed administration to distribute the cost of the land use bylaw rewrite over 2 years, 2026, 2027 operating budgets.
Thank you. Questions, comments? All those in favor? Great. And that's carried unanimously. And now for your second motion,
You repeat that, please?
To bring back information on garbage and organic rates. With a halfway to full cost recovery scenario.
Missed the last bit, sorry.
With a halfway to full cost recovery. I guess you could just bring it all.
Yeah, why don't I-
Bring it all.
it's
Okay,
okay.
yeah.
Yes, and then we can discuss.
back up a little bit.
Halfway and full cost. Bring it all.
Yeah, I have to calculate it anyway.
So just,
full cost.
bring back information on garbage and organic rates, focusing on the deficit.
Yeah.
Because that's what you want, right? We want to see what the deficit.
To move towards full cost recovery, sure.
To move towards full cost recovery.
Just everyone will help me make a motion.
Yeah.
Just have to go with it. Go.
And sometimes we ask people, we can say no.
So-
I've done that in the past.
They say no.
And you can go.
So Jamie will
Too bad.
do that regularly. If they friendly amendment, he goes, no. And I agree to it.
Okay. Do you want to read it out or?
That council directed administration to bring back information on garbage and organics rates to move towards full cost recovery.
Okay. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Jonathan.
Yeah, obviously, we want to thank you so much for the great work that your team is doing. Managers alike bringing us back the budget. In one of the slides, we talked about the fact that we were looking at a pretty incredible increase before we restructured, almost 22%. We're still pretty high. So I'm going to make a motion that council directs administration to bring back the draft 2 to reflect a budget increase of less than 5%, or the property tax increase of, not the budget increase, the property tax increase of less than 5%. Sorry about that. And I think we helped you with that with the 125,000 transfer that's about 1.5% of an increase already. So hopefully we can work together and find that.
Just one.
Go ahead.
I know that we're gonna talk about more planning and more training with planning, but I think understanding like what a real growth rate is. Cause we talk about how many planning files are coming in, but how many actual new doors are coming in, our users, 2,200 right now. Like to you know, if we've got, you know, just rough numbers, we get 1.5 million a year from the province. We're putting away about 700,000 to reserves on some budgets. This year, maybe a little less. But we should be putting 4 million into infrastructure minimum every year. So we've got like this $2 million gap. You know, if you do that based on how many new doors that would take, you're like over 600 doors to make that up. And if we're only growing at 40 doors a year, right?
Not realistic.
Like,
It's not sustainable.
that's not sustainable, like, to just put this into perspective for council. Yeah. Like the actual, yes, there's lots of interest, but what's the reality of like the last few years for growth numbers? Just, and they're like new doors would be really great to know.
Yeah.
When we talk in, you know, in the coming months.
Yeah, thanks, your worship. Yeah, so right now, I think first committee of the whole meeting, we're going to do a planning and development strategic planning session, and we're gonna bring back to council is fees and charges. So how can we incentivize developers that are serious about developing versus those that are just maybe tire kicking? And so we'll have a lot of decision points to come back that I think can better cost rationalize council's objectives for a lot of these things. So yeah, a lot more to come in, say, 2 to 3 months time. But that's, I think, just looking at your math, I think that is fundamentally the challenge. As we know, you know, and Carrie's mentioned several times, you know, 20% of the land mass is currently at some stage of application. But what does it actually translate to new developments? And that therein lies the gap.
Yeah.
Okay, motion on the floor. Jonathan's, do you want to read it one more time, Jonathan?
Chair
for
of
the
the
public?
council direct the administration to bring back draft 2 of the 2026 operating budget to show a property tax increase of less than 5%.
Okay. All those in favor? And that's passed. Okay, any other motions before we let Lisa go, team?
Thanks.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Great work, Lisa. I got the 2 other ones. You can go back. We're just gonna make an amendment. It's just something. Paul's been nudging me here for the last 5 minutes. So, okay, we're gonna move on to the amended component of the agenda, which is 9.5 with the minutes. I'm gonna let Hazel's, or I mean, unless you sent the email out, I don't know if Hazel didn't speak to it, but
It's just a little typo. After the closed session, Councillor Fleming was not present. And also, Councillor Fleming is the council rep for the MPs or the Municipal Police Commission. And I believe that Councillor Holiday is the council alternate for that committee.
That was corrected from the package presentation in that form.
Yeah.
we're okay with that? Motion's needed for that. That was just clerical.
No, we need to adopt the minutes now as amended.
As amended. Okay,
Yes.
Yeah, he's on the police commission.
okay, we are going to adopt the minutes as amended.
Yeah.
All those in favor? See Colin's hand out of the bathroom door there. Perfect, thanks, Colin. And we'll move to 9.5. We'll move to 9.6, which Cindy, I believe you asked for that to be.
Yeah, just how they mentioned, you know, new senior management team coming in and that they were wanting to meet with municipalities. We do have a new police commission starting. I don't know if those kind of meetings are helpful or if they're useful, or should we be asking for one to get started on the right foot? Does it hurt?
Yeah, thanks, your worship. It certainly does not hurt. You know what? If we jumped it quick, we'd be one of the first. So I could see that being useful for the new committee.
Because I'm assuming these people have seen well-run police committees and not so well-run, so they might come in and have just be good people to talk to for a new committee.
Absolutely, your worship. I think any face time with the new policing committee could have with senior RCMP officers, would probably be beneficial.
Direct administration to set up a meeting or request a meeting with seniors maybe.
Perfect.
Deputy Commissioner Giroux.
Capture that, Vernon?
You bet.
Okay. All those in favor? Oh, excuse me, sorry.
Sorry,
Councillor
I had
Bain.
a question. The security clearances, do the members need that for this meeting?
Yeah, your worship, but not specifically. The way I believe the directions given is once the security clearances are complete, then the committee can kick off. I think that's the.
Yeah, we're kind of looking at an official start of the committee based on our previous timeframe for the members at large, the community members. This is probably a March or April start for the formal meeting. To your question regarding would you need a security clearance to meet with these guys? Absolutely not. We just have not taken any formal steps as administration to bring the committee together until everybody's ready, and then we're gonna do an orientation and kick things off all at one time. So the committee isn't, other than people being selected, they're not actually functioning as a committee yet until probably March, April. So
What I thought, I just wanted to make sure.
you gotta wait till then or preemptively meet, that's up to you guys, but yeah.
Thanks, CJ. Good question, Ted. Any other questions? All those in favor? It's carried. Okay, seeing nothing else right now, I'm gonna dismiss the majority of administration and I guess we'll recess for a few minutes while they leave. So bathroom and drink, and then we're gonna take a motion to go into closed. If there's anyone online, we're gonna go into closed. Should anything come out of closed, which I don't anticipate, but. I think it could be what's Cindy, us, what do you think? 15 minutes, so, expectation maybe to. Oh, yeah, the food drive is going on for another 45 minutes. And, I don't know, we come back at maybe 22. Online. Yeah, 40, okay.
I'll just go down.
Okay, thank you. We're,
Start the count.
5 minutes, 8:13. Okay, motion going to closed. Counselor Gordon gives me that. All those in favor? Perfect. Okay, we are in closed.